The Bitcoin Group, the American original. For over the last 10 seconds, the sharpest Satoshis, the best Bitcoins, the hardest cryptocurrency talk. We'd like to welcome our panelists. Gabriel D. Vine from Future Rant.
I love you, World Crypto Network audience member.
Kyle Torpy from Bitcoin Magazine.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Tone Vase from Brave New Coin.
Hi everyone, I'm still recuperating from 3 full days of consensus in New York.
Theo Goodman from Haas Online.
Evening, everyone.
And I'm Thomas Hunt from the World Crypto Network. Moving on to issue 1. Issue 1. Satoshi, Satoshi, Satoshi. Craig Wright attempted to prove that he was Satoshi Nakamoto again this week, performing a private magic trick fooling both Gavin Andresen and John Matonis. His public proof, however, differed from his private and was unconvincing, using an already published key. Wright claimed that he would then move old coins until suddenly announcing on his website that he lacked courage and was saying goodbye. Gabriel D. Vine. Is Craig Wright Satoshi Nakamoto?
I'm going to say he might be. I've got three theories about it. You know, most of the things that people have been saying back and forth about, you know, calling him out and saying you know, it's confusing and stuff. I mean, I think it is confusing, and that means that there's a story behind it. So my three theories are, number one, it's a large tax scam. Some sort of business dealing where he owes the government a lot of money, or he owes some party a lot of money, and he's trying to pull a scam to pretend to link Satoshi's wealth, which is, you know, $40 million, I think, $400 million, to him, to say, oh, I'm good for it. Some weird scheme like that. The second theory is that he genuinely is Satoshi and wanted to, and he felt the people coming, you know, like the attention coming in, and he wanted to actually distance himself and make it seem totally unbelievable that he's Satoshi. So he concocted this completely ridiculous, totally unbelievable claim that he was Satoshi, and so basically publicly coming out and saying that, you know, maybe the truth in this theory, and then completely failing to back it up and making it totally unbelievable so as to remove the spotlight from him. That's another theory. I don't think it's that likely. And then my third theory is the one that seems the most likely, according to my research lately. It seems possible that maybe Kleiman, his previous partner, could be the main author of the Bitcoin white paper and protocol, and he's got the wallet files from Kleiman, but not the private key. And this was all an attempt to scam Matonis and our other large Bitcoin holders in order to fund, quote-unquote, possibly fund a brute force project on that wallet, to use his quote-unquote supercomputer array in order to crack one of Satoshi's original wallets, or maybe just a scam where he didn't know anybody and just wanted to get money. I have a feeling that Matonis might have gotten had for a lot more than £5.
Interesting theories, Gabe. I like the second one the best, that he purposely proved himself not to be Satoshi as a cover-up. That's a really good theory. Kyle Torpy.
Yeah, those all seem like they could be what happened. But I'd say it seems like he's not at this point. He basically had 4 people come out and claim that they thought he was Satoshi, with JVP, Ian Gregg, Tonis, and Gavin. Not really sure what to make of JVP's or Ian Gregg's claims. But I talked to John Matonis on Tuesday, I think it was, and he said he doesn't really want to be a disciple for these claims, basically. So it seems like he still would like to see some more proof, as far as like if the public's going to be convinced. He knows that either Wright's going to have to do some kind of signing of some sort, which doesn't seem that's going to happen at this point. Seems like Gavin's backing off a bit now, at least on Twitter, and saying he could have gotten bamboozled and everything. And it's kind of sad that this was saying before we started the show. It's sad it covered up everything that happened at Consensus. basically no one talked about anything but Craig Wright this week. So it really, I mean, there was some good and some bad that came out of consensus, but there were also some good announcements, like what happened with 21 announcing their software and BitPay announcing their debit card. So really, it just seems like a distraction at this point.
It does seem like John Matonis went further than anyone else on his blog, saying that he had feelings that he had met Satoshi, and then getting really excited that he had met Satoshi, and really detailing the entire event. It seems like he really got taken in.
Yeah, I should add that he when I was talking to him, he didn't want to go into the details of how Craig Wright proved himself cryptographically.
It does seem the most logical. They had the clean laptop, they brought it in, then they installed Electrum from an unknown source. It seems the most logical attack vector is a cracked version of Electrum that verified the keys. We don't know this for sure, we're just speculating here, but it does seem most logical. Tone Vase, your thoughts on Satoshi?
Yeah, no, it's funny how the news came out the morning of consensus, and I was there for 3 days plus the commutes to Manhattan to get there. So everything I learned about this story was from people at consensus. I'm pretty sure it dominated everything outside of consensus, but inside the event, honestly, this wasn't. I didn't feel like this dominated the event, which maybe it should have. It's more Bitcoin related than most of the things that went on at consensus. It was a really strange event in that, like, Bitcoin is like, it's like no one's heard of it. Everyone is like, hey, what's your next project on Ethereum or any other blockchain? There's like 50 blockchains that everyone's building on. Like, the number one question these days is, yeah, so what blockchain stack are you building your project on? Because the answer will definitely not be Bitcoin. But I spoke to Gavin Andreessen, and Gavin was pretty convinced that Craig Wright is Satoshi. In fact, Gavin is so convinced that he convinced another person who's been in the Bitcoin space since like 2010 and also had communications directly with Satoshi back and forth in those forums. I don't want to like name names on this. Gavin was able to get him to be like 98% convinced. So these guys are starting to change my mind a little bit. I was always a hardcore, there's no way Craig Wright is Satoshi. Now I'm leaning closer to 50-50, and honestly, it doesn't matter. For me personally, I don't care, but everybody else seems to care. As for what I think, I guess to mimic what Gabriel said, I am leaning also close to his number 3, and in that number 3 scenario, I forgot the guy's name, the guy from Florida.
Kleinman.
Kleinman, thank you. So Kleinman is the more likely Satoshi, or they worked on it together. It's very possible, like my conspiracy theory is that they were both almost equally responsible for it, and because it was 2 of them, they could never come out public because between the 2 of them, they had trust and they had some kind of consensus. Now that Kleinman is no longer around, it was up to Craig Wright to make the decision whether he wants to come out or not. And another rumor that I heard was he was kind of being extorted for being Satoshi, and all this evidence was going to come out anyway, and his name was going to get leaked. And in order to try and set the record straight, he's now coming out. He could be a scammer. I don't know. It shouldn't really matter. Nobody should take their Bitcoins out of their cold storage to loan it to anyone, including a real Satoshi. That's all I can tell you guys. That's my only advice. Focus on the Bitcoin. Focus what Bitcoin is doing now. Satoshi should no longer have that much influence, and I'm afraid he will. The block size debate will only become worse now that if he is revealed to be Craig Wright, in my opinion.
That reminds me of an old George Carlin joke, something like, he's God, but he always needs money.
Exactly.
Theo Goodman.
I think it was really interesting and not at all by random chance how the media machine and the offensive went down in a very meticulous manner, having it leaked to the BBC and then, other mainstream medias, and then suddenly the blogs come in, power it up, and that's a certain pattern we've seen in Bitcoin. We saw it with XT, we saw it with Classic. It was very similar how it was released. I don't think that's necessarily related, and maybe there were some other things that came out, but I don't think it was a chance that it came out just so happened at at the same time as a big conference. I just don't think that was a random event at all. And if we're going to go to super crazy conspiracy theories, then really what it was is that Core somehow contacted Craig Wright to come up with this ridiculous story and to con Gavin so that Core can kick Gavin out. That's the real, conspiracy theory here. So if you look on our BTC, I think that read around, then you'll get that theory confirmed.
That's a good point, Theo. It was definitely timed for the consensus conference, and they've also said that the NDA that Gavin signed was mainly to keep this from the press. They didn't want Gavin to leak it early or to mess up their rollout, which very much sounds like a PR-focused individual. It was also rumored on Reddit that Wright had signed with a PR agency and that he's now being represented, and this could be a whole second round of Craig Wright stories. This could not be over. So we'll see.
Wait, let me jump back in here real quick because I want to challenge Theo on something he said. What proof did Reddit provide that the Core did this to revoke Gavin's commit privileges? I'm really curious.
I'm sorry. None. It's just total crazy conspiracy theory made up.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry about it. It was just to get because there's so many other crazy theories going around. Then hell, why not? Like, I mean, if you really wanna, think about how to if some people think that, it's all about getting someone's commit keys out, which doesn't mean that you're out of the project. It just means that we have to take your keys away because you don't trust yourself and you're a possible security threat. It doesn't mean that you're kicked out of anything.
It is true that this morning Vladimir, the project lead, posted a detailed blog post saying that Core was not going to be giving Gavin back his security key. Gavin hasn't been contributing to Bitcoin for over a year, and they were very concerned by Gavin's statements that he promised to give commit access to Satoshi. Then if Gavin believes this guy is Satoshi, by Gavin's promise, he's now going to give commit access to Craig Wright, which very much concerned the Bitcoin Core team, who doesn't know Craig Wright and doesn't believe this story. So they have removed Gavin's keys permanently.
That's interesting. I just want to mention one more thing about Core, because clearly these insane rumors are flying around on Reddit. I mean, I've been over at Blockstream offices. I've talked to them. They have a very strict policy. Like, if they even catch one of the Blockstream team members, if they catch him having a spoof account, like if they create like a fake Reddit account to comment not as themselves, they automatically get kicked out of the organization. So they'll get fired. So they have a very, very strict policy on things that are way less conspiratorial than that. Like, trust me, if you think that there's some spoof account pretending to be a real core developer, like pretending to be somebody else, no, they're not doing that. It's not worth their jobs. They have very, very strict conduct policy there, and it's a privilege to be there. I'm positive they don't abuse it. Why would they?
Definitely not. Exit question. Satoshi Nakamoto is Gabriel Devine.
Correct. It's me, and I, decided to leave the space in 2010. So yeah, your statement is correct. I agree with it.
Kyle Torpy.
I have no idea, but I used to say it wouldn't matter at all who Satoshi was, but now in this very political environment, I think maybe Satoshi could have some sort of impact if he came back, which is unfortunate.
Tone Vase.
I don't think we'll ever know. I think this will be a debate for the rest of our lifetimes. I don't think anyone will ever be 100% proven or disproven at this point.
Theo Goodman.
As we talked about it before, I don't know, I guess like a month ago, at the first wave of Craig Wright mess, doesn't really matter, and Satoshi is someone in a yacht somewhere in the ocean chilling.
Satoshi Nakamoto is Mad Bitcoins. Mad Bitcoins published the only cryptographically provable keys on April 1st. All you have to do is check them. That's all you have to do. Moving on to issue 2. Issue 2, ChainAnchor, KYC. Andreas Antonopoulos took to Twitter this week to warn Bitcoiners about MIT's ChainAnchor project, saying that the MIT ChainAnchor team want to add KYC into Bitcoin mining. This is an existential threat to Bitcoin. Resist it. The ChainAnchor team was busy giving an extensive AMA on Reddit, with some Redditors attacking the project directly, claiming that a leaked draft of the ChainAnchor paper seemed to be planning a slow takeover of Bitcoin mining by rewarding miners who carry blocks of only permission transactions in an attempt to remove permissionless pseudo-anonymous transactions that carry no KYC from the Bitcoin ecosystem entirely. Kyle Torpy, will their plan work?
So I had a piece published about this earlier in the week, which probably nobody saw because of the Craig Wright stuff that was going on. But I talked to David from MIT and I talked to Peter Todd for about a week, back and forth, and I couldn't really get to any real facts on the situation. I will say that when I was talking to David, when he first responded to the story on Reddit, he kept saying that ChainAnchor never had any, it was never intention to apply it to Bitcoin. And he kept saying that over and over again on Reddit. And then he kept saying that to me during our emails and pointing me to his Reddit comments. And then finally I pointed out an excerpt from the paper that describes how to apply it to Bitcoin. And he finally says, yes, we explored it and thought about it and stuff like that. But it was just weird that, I don't know why he didn't want to admit that they thought about applying to Bitcoin. I don't know if they didn't want people to know it for nefarious reasons, if they didn't want people to know because they didn't want people to think they would think of such a dumb idea. But yeah, I'm not. That's basically what I was disappointed in David's unwillingness to admit that they attempted to apply it to Bitcoin.
It's a very interesting project, especially given Lawrence Summers' remarks at Consensus, where he said Bitcoin will not survive without bowing to the regulatory systems. Bitcoin will not survive without KYC. Here's a project that comes along right at the right time to add KYC to Bitcoin. Tone Vase.
No, I think Kyle nailed it with his comment of how stupid of a project this is. I don't even think Bitcoiners should be upset. This can't work. You can't apply KYC to mining. Anyone that thinks that you can apply KYC to mining does not understand why there is mining in the Bitcoin space. They just don't. It's not going to work. It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. Is it the same team that we talked about last week with the MIT, or was it 2 weeks ago?
It's the same team we talked about a few weeks ago, but it's gotten bigger with Andreas warning about the project.
Okay. So because I thought over there they were talking about KYCing transactions, which could be done with wallets. Your wallets can know who you are, which is what worries me because that ties us into the whole mycelium thing. To me, there's the two most important companies in all of Bitcoin is Mycelium and Airbits, and they have no money, and that's horrible. So if we have bad wallets, the wallets that will get unlimited funding are wallets that can do KYC, and of course they won't have. I want to say they won't have any users, but that's not true because look at Coinbase. They're a KYC wallet, and they have plenty of users. No one has any control over mining. These guys at MIT think that mining is going to pick it up, and how in the world are they going to reward them more? Are they going to print Bitcoin over there? It's just, the whole concept is ridiculous. Miners are going to realize that they will get more for the anonymous Bitcoins than for the KYC Bitcoins, and why in the world would you, so they will actually pay them less, so why in the world would they waste energy for that? It's just a dumb project. I wouldn't even give it much thought. It's stupid. It's never going to take off. And the people that come up with these things, they're on the wrong side of this battle of cryptocurrencies.
It is unfortunate, Tone, that the most privacy-seeking and privacy-protecting projects don't have money. It reminds me of the quote from the poem where he says, "The best lack all conviction, while the worst are filled with a passionate intensity." Theo Goodman.
Yeah, nice quote, Thomas. I think that no, it's not going to work in Bitcoin. I'm not afraid, or I don't think that it'll get, adapted in some pull request or something like that at all. But I do think that probably it'll go a step further with the proof of concept, and they will try to test it on some kind of funky alt chain or ledger thing, whatever they want to call it now, and just like kind of do it and say it works. And yeah, like Tone was saying, money plays a big part of it. I'm sure these guys got some good funding, and they're allowed to play around and do, funny stuff. And it's just an academic exercise and proof of concept, and somebody wanted to build it. And there are some interesting questions on the Reddit AMA that they did about, who funds them. And they, they kind of linked to kind of a generic list of names that are listed on the MIT website, but wouldn't answer direct questions. What three-letter have you been approached by a three-letter organization, or just like basically is the government funding you? They didn't answer directly. They just said, look at this webpage, MIT Trust. Here's a list of funders, and some of those were banks and other characters that you could see would want something like this in Bitcoin. So I just think it's a proof of concept, and some people are getting funded to build it.
Maybe it's an anagram like C-Tech Technology, Too Many Secrets. Gabriel V. Vine.
Yeah, I think this project is a perfect example of the corruption of academia by the involvement of state actors and as well as corporate actors, like Theo pointed out with the banks. So I do think it is also doomed to complete failure or obscurity. If they try to apply it to a sidechain or something, then you'll see that pegs are only as strong as people are actually willing to buy those tainted coins that are completely tracked, as opposed to more anonymous, fungible Bitcoin on the main chain. So this is basically a fruitless exercise that bureaucrats excel at funding. I will say that I saw a picture of David Schreier, and he looks uncannily like Eric Wareheim from Tim and Eric's Awesome Show, which is very disconcerting. And I will also say that this AMA on Reddit was very entertaining to see this academic fidgeting in the face of all of the supporters of a product whose raison d'etre is censorship resistance. And to see his supposed surprise that all these fans of censorship resistance are completely up in arms and grilling him about his paper that is specifically meant to target and break censorship resistance. So the fact that they were surprised about that is totally disingenuous and idiotic. And it's really fun to see Schreier chiming in on the Buttcoin, the r/Buttcoin thread, which is the parody subreddit that is specifically exists to make fun so people can spend their time attacking Bitcoin. They're attacking this thing that they want to go away, supposedly. And to see Schreier go over there and all the sympathetic comments, there, it was like all chummy over there. It was like the mirror image of the Reddit, the Bitcoin subreddit AMA. That was hilarious. These guys are just crooks, and they're just trying to create their surveillance state. So this is Schreier's just an empty tool in that authoritarian goal.
No more distributed butts. Exit question. ChainAnchor will fail, but will we see other programs like it? Yes or no? Kyle Torpy.
You could say permission blockchains are pretty much what ChainAnchor is trying to achieve, and that's what they say they're going to apply ChainAnchor to permission blockchains now. I thought it was interesting when Peter Todd first talked about this story. He said we should treat it as an exercise to see if the attack would actually work on Bitcoin. like Tom said, I don't think it actually would. So I don't think we have anything to worry about really in this case, but it's always useful to treat these kind of threats as theoretical exercises for attacks on Bitcoin.
Tone Vase.
Oh yeah, no, we're gonna see even more of these things. They're gonna be popping out of the woodworks. The first one was what, Elliptic, and I got on their case because they pivoted. They were originally like a cold storage, save you, will protect your bitcoins kind of company, and then all of a sudden, boom, we can find 60% of the users that are using Bitcoin. I think there's plenty of money, plenty of money. They'll have like hundreds of millions of dollars to identify people. Yet the privacy ones will, you do have to resort to token sales. Yeah, what more can I say?
It's almost like there's something wrong with this world, but that's a topic for another day. Theo Goodman.
Yes, we'll see other projects like this. Follow the money.
Gabriel D. Vine.
Yeah, we're going to see socio-political attacks, as we've already seen with the block size debate. It's an obvious sabotage attempt. We're going to see academic attacks like this one, where people release white papers to try to influence the technological side. And we're going to see direct technical attacks continuing. Those, things like having Mike Hearn go in and causing a hard fork by accident. Then we're going to see economic attacks where people will try to, affect the market price, for example, causing great volatility when otherwise there might not be, manipulation of markets. We're going to see legal attacks where many countries are already, declaring Bitcoin illegal and things like that. Once those fail and the use can't be stopped, we're going to see terrorist attacks. We're going to see, extra legal tracking down of users and attempts to destroy mining farms. And then lastly, we're not going to see a whole lot of equal competition on the markets. That's something that's an attack vector that I don't think we're going to see a whole lot of. And if we do, that's great for us because then it means that something is even better than Bitcoin.
So much fighting and so many attacks. I thought we were here to bring peace. Moving on. Shop with Bitcoin on purse.io and save 15% off Amazon. I just got a new portable battery charger for my iPhone, an HD switcher for my TV, and a box full of granola bars. All for 15% off, and I paid in Bitcoin. Try it today at purse.io. Issue 3. Delaware to seek legal classification for blockchain shares. Delaware, a state famous for both its diminutive size and for being the home of America's corporations, is now seeking to be a home for America's blockchains. The state struck out on its own this week, announcing a partnership with smart contract startup Symbiont and New York law firm Pillsbury, Winthrop, Shaw, and Pittman. The state plans to launch a new kind of corporate share called distributed ledger shares. The shares would likely be hosted on Delaware's own DelawareChain. Tone Vase, is Delaware on to something here? Is this a good idea?
It's another database. There's no innovation here. This is what I try to explain to these people. They were at Consensus. They had the big announcement. They had their own panel. And I just want to sit there and going, you can't call Oracle. You need to, are too many, everybody in Delaware using Excel spreadsheets right now? It's a database. It's not a blockchain. There is nothing blockchain about it. It's not decentralized. It's not secured by work. I like what the IBM guy said at the event. He's like, hey, throw the word blockchain on it and you get funding. I don't know if he realized what he was saying, but this is exactly what it is. There'll be a lot of companies, they have their corporation in Delaware, mostly for tax reasons, but it's not that private. If you're going to have a private LLC, you're not going to do it in Delaware. You're going to do it in like Nevada or Wyoming, and there's other states. That's where you would do your private LLC. Everyone goes to Delaware for their corporate stuff because that's where the tax advantages are. So all this will do is, I don't know, maybe let them fire some middleman data entry people, and Are they going to do it on the Bitcoin blockchain? Are they going to build their own? Just call it for what it is. We want to restructure our database and we want to make things faster, and that's it. You don't need anyway. I'll leave it there. You guys go on. There'll be more of these things, and they're getting closer to mild stupid. If anyone saw my tweet from this week that went around like 100 times.
Theo Goodman.
Yeah, I'm going to agree. I'm not really sure what the benefit is. And yeah, maybe if they fire some data entry people, then I guess it's cheaper to register my company. I don't know. I don't think so. They probably just pocket that little extra $5 they saved. I don't really get it, how it's so interesting. And if you did do it on the Bitcoin blockchain, okay, well, in Delaware you said they're not private. It's not really private anyway, but it would be even less private because everyone could figure out when the shares are getting moved around and everything. So I don't really see how it's an advantage, except that it sounds really cool, and maybe they get cool advertising out of it, and whoever got Delaware to pay them a bunch of money, good for you.
I'm still not sure what they're going to be using it for. I have no idea. They still haven't. I don't think they've said that.
I don't think they know. Maybe they don't know.
They don't.
It's just, yeah. It's just a cool. It's just a cool thing. It's a cool thing.
It sounds like instead of having a probably illegal token crowd sale, you could have a probably legal Delaware coin crowd sale. That's all I'm saying.
Sorry, let me just jump in real quick. It could be like what I just recently heard Factom's been doing. So basically, Symbiont might have come to them and say, "Hey, we will pay you some money and let us let us put you on our blockchain." And now Symbiont's going to go around telling everybody that the state of Delaware is their client. So I don't know. It could be one of these. Who knows? I have no idea what they're going to be using it for. I would love to know. I hope they call and tell me.
Gabriel D. Vaughn.
So my first question, I mean, that was also my question, like, what is this? I don't understand the content of this article, Mr. Stan Higgins. What the hell is a distributed ledger share, and what will it be used for? And don't say autonomous record keeping, because that just makes it more vague. So that's I agree. I don't really know what they're using it for. That's cool though. Maybe they'll find some use for it. Definitely, once you got a hammer in your hand, it's easy to find nails. So the second question that I have is how will this be distributed? They're saying distributed ledger shares, but they're talking about the Delaware government functions. So is this going to be distributed, like between the Screen Door Factory in Wilmington? And I mean, how many different servers are going to be mirroring this supposed blockchain? Why do you need to distribute something that's in principle a centralized endeavor, which is government-regulated corporations? I don't understand, and I also doubt that it actually will be distributed in any way. As Tone pointed out, they're just upgrading their database with a little bit of cryptographic proof for movement of some sort of data. And thirdly, I'd just like to point out that by creating a new system, you totally might save a few bucks per transaction, as Theo pointed out, but you're also creating another centralized attack vector. So it's going to be really fun to see the mature phase of the private blockchain trend culminating in massive hacks and huge losses of data and probably money as well. So that's going to be a really fun phase in about 2.5 years. So we'll revisit the topic start of 2019.
It sounds like they're just using the word distributed to say we're not going to have backups. It's going to be distributed. So blockchain is database and distributed is backups. So network engineers, they're coming for all your jobs too. Kyle Torpy.
Yeah, I agree with pretty much everything everyone else said. I'd add, when I first got excited about Bitcoin, it wasn't about banks and financial institutions having more effective backends on their systems. So this kind of stuff doesn't really, I find it pretty boring and I'm just not really that interested in it. I will say if they offer more regulatory clarity in Delaware, that could be a good thing for either Bitcoin or blockchain startups there. I know Jerry Brito recently gave a speech at the Cato Institute where he talked about how the U.S. has fallen behind in attracting startups because of the unclear regulations in the U.S. So if they do some improvements there, that could be helpful. But otherwise, I'm not really interested in what they're doing.
Moving on to issue 4, where we have an exit question, but we're actually running out of time. So we're going to move on to issue 4. We're going to go into the lightning round. Issue 4, 7-Eleven, the day Bitcoin prices will rocket or the start of a crash. Bitcoiners all over the world are starting to get excited for the Halvening 2, the return. The Halvening is a unique event that ensures Bitcoin will have a deflationary currency by reducing the block reward in half approximately every 4 years. The last halvening was in 2012 when we saw the block reward decrease from 50 to 25. This time it'll go to 25 to 12.5. Imagine that 50% of the world's gold mines suddenly shut down. Bitcoin production will decrease dramatically in a single day. Theo Goodman, I ask you, what will happen to the value of Bitcoin?
I think it'll go up. Probably go up, and there's less, should be less selling pressure because there's less produced every day. So that makes sense that, price should go up. Now, it might go, like we know Bitcoin does, go up and down very crazily. But, yeah, in general, I think the halvening will make it go up.
Gabriel D. Vine.
I think that miners are planning for the halvening. That's one of the great things about Bitcoin. It's got a completely public and known inflation schedule. So I think we're going to see miners preparing for it. They're going to be holding onto their coins a little bit now, and that's going to soften the impact of the sudden halvening in July. So I think we're going to I think we're already, as of a few weeks ago, seeing the impact of the upcoming halvening, and I think we're going to see that upward pressure on the price over the next year or more. I think year and a half we're going to see it sort of spread out and a very bullish phase for Bitcoin with, as Theo pointed out, volatile drops in between.
Kyle Torpy.
I don't think it's going to affect the price really at all. I think it's already priced in for speculators and miners. I remember Gavin's recent AMA at that Chinese community website. He was talking to them about that potential crisis that could happen. The halving happened, and then there was blocks were slowing down because miners were turning their equipment off, and then whatever that crisis, that theoretical crisis that classic supporters have been trying to throw out there. And he was saying that pretty much all the miners are prepared for the halving, and they're not going to turn off their equipment when the halving happens. So I don't expect much to happen around this event really at all.
Tone Vase.
Well, I think some miners will turn off their equipment because they will no longer be competitive. The big miners obviously won't. I'm going to second Gabe on this one as well. I've been saying it for over 6 months. When I started seeing the difficulty go up about 6 months ago, I said, oh, okay, here's what I think is happening here. Miners are using all the leverage they can to put as much equipment online as possible now to get every last block of 25 Bitcoins. At the same time, I think that miners have been a little stingier with selling those coins on the market, which could be helping the price go up right now. Also, a lot of crazies in the trading world, they will also think that Bitcoin is going to go to the moon after the halvening, and they will bid the price up going into the halving just by trading. And then what I think will happen after the halving is the big miners that have been hoarding some of the extra Bitcoin because they know their rewards will cut in half, they're going to sell right into that bubble. They're going to sell into the bubble going into the halving. So after the halving, I expect the prices to fall. And then, like 6 to 12 months later, the effects of the lower supply of Bitcoins will start to have a major effect. And then Bitcoin should go up, 2 to 3x over the following year. So that's kind of what I'm looking at. A bubble into the halving, a minor crash, and then we go up like 6 months after that.
Theo Goodman.
I think we started with Theo on this one.
Ah, we did. Okay, well, we're running low on time, so we're going to skip the exit question again, and we're going to move on to predictions or a story of the week. So, Gabriel D. Vine, are you ready with a prediction or a story of the week?
Yes. My story of the week is Bitcoin is still cool no matter who Satoshi is.
Kyle Torpy.
I have a story coming out early next week about Bitcoin Core revoking Gavin's commit access. For now, I'll just say that it doesn't really matter if he has commit access or now. It's not really an issue at all. It's mostly a janitorial role, so I don't think a big deal should be made out of it. But I guess look forward to that piece on Monday. On Bitcoin
And
Magazine.
where can we find that piece, Kyle?
It should be up on Bitcoin Magazine.
All right. Thank you. Tone Vase.
So my prediction is you're going to hear a lot more talk of the word blockchain simply being used for raising capital. I think that's going to be, I think people are going to start to be way more skeptical, and they're going to actually, that word will start to get broken down. You can no longer just say, well, it's a blockchain. Don't you know what a blockchain is? I think that word is about to fall under a lot more scrutiny.
Theo Goodman. Getting a black screen. Looks like Theo's disappeared. Anyone else seeing this? All right. Looks like we've lost Theo Goodman. Theo? No? All right. Looks like he's had a connection issue. We're going to move on to a prediction. Prediction. Bankers and their permissioned blockchains and distributed ledger tech will not defeat Bitcoin and the one true blockchain. Attempts will be made and continue to be made to dethrone Bitcoin as the strongest ledger and most likely store of value for the future, but they will fail. Bitcoin is the strongest and it exists in public where all can audit or attack. Private blockchains will never have this strength and will always be a runner-up to the defending heavyweight champion of the world, Bitcoin. Oh, we're out of time. Until next time, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right.